Hi, and welcome back to Love on the Brain, the podcast that helps you transform tough emotions into questions that serve you better. I'm your host, Kay Van Dunk, and I help independent women who are single, divorced, or widowed find their soulmates while staying true to their high standards. In each episode, we dive into a frustrating question you might have about love. I share some insights, and then we reframe it with an affirmation or ask-formation to help you lift your spirits. An affirmation is just a question framed in a positive way to help your brain search for solutions, or at least shift your mindset. If your brain's going to be on repeat, might as well give it something helpful, right? If you haven't already, please subscribe and leave a great review on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on. Your reviews help other amazing singles find this podcast too. All right, let's get started with today's episode. Today we're digging into the tricky territory of dating standards, specifically the question of the day, which is, am I being too accommodating in dating for my soulmate? This is the other half of a two-part episode because there's duality here. On one side, you can be too picky, and on the other side you can be not picky enough. As women, we have this societal pressure of being realistic from a lifetime of conditioning that tells you to just pick someone. Some of that boils down to maybe religion, family dynamics, what's going on in your friend group, and of course your age, because your biological clock might be ticking, or the little "you're not getting any younger, honey," which can push us in the other direction for some of us, a little too far in the other direction. So what does being too accommodating look like? It might be accepting behaviors or traits or characteristics from someone that don't align with your values or your desires. It might be overlooking red flags, glaring red flags that show up very early, or even in the online dating phase or the getting to know you phase, some of the beige flags that are a little bit harder to spot, but easy to know something might be a little off here. And being too accommodating can also mean settling for less than you deserve. Being so open-minded that you let someone through who maybe it's not the best fit, to being at the other end, which is being a pick-me, which is everything looks good as long as you're with someone, right? There's no behavior that's out of bounds because at least I'm not single. A healthy middle ground would be being open to possibilities. So take a look at what your non-negotiables are. Those are the things in a relationship you absolutely feel like you need on your list. And then compare that to the deal breakers. And then finally, look at what your preferences are. Those are things where you might be a little bit flexible about. And that could be anything from dating a little bit outside of your preferred age range to maybe what neighborhood this person lives in. And I know it sounds a little crazy, but when I lived in New York City, I definitely knew people who lived in Manhattan but would not date people at the other end of the island or, God forbid, in another borough. So look at your list, non-negotiables, preferences, and deal breakers, and compare them to your life goals and your core values to see where they align. Do you have a lot more preferences than anything else and not really many non-negotiables? Then you're going to need to find some balance there, because that could be very telling on why that is. Or maybe you have a lot of deal breakers but hardly any preferences or non-negotiables. And try to find some harmony there, because being really clear on your core values and your goals can help you see if you're being a little bit too accommodating. Now that you can see it in black and white, whose voice comes to mind when I say, are you being too accommodating? Is it yours or is it someone else's voice? It's important that when you're looking for your soulmate love, that you know your worth coming into a relationship. Because knowing your worth will help you find somebody else who knows your worth, because they're not going to come with anything less than the standard that you've set for yourself. And that's important in a soulmate relationship. You might think that by being very accommodating that it makes it easier to find your soulmate, but it might make it that much harder because now you've got to sift through all these people who are not your soulmate to get there. Ultimately, it boils down to the fact that there is balance. You can be open to love by being a little bit flexible and leaving room for the universe to do its magic, and having standards that are a prerequisite for anyone who wants to get to know you better, specifically your soulmate. So when it comes to the question of, am I being too accommodating in dating for my soulmate? We're going to reframe that with an affirmation. And that is, why is it so easy for me to recognize what I want and need in a soulmate? Repeat the affirmation with me again. Why is it so easy for me to recognize what I want and need in a soulmate? Before we close each podcast, I love to focus on gratitude because it's the highest vibration of all. Think of one thing you're grateful for in this moment. As always, I'm grateful that you tuned into my podcast and love you for listening. And remember, when love is on the brain, asking better questions can lead to better answers. Imagine waking up every day knowing you're one step closer to the soulmate who truly gets you. The Soulmate Wishlist Blueprint is your first step in making that a reality. This isn't just a list, it's a roadmap to attracting the love you've always known is possible. For 2 days, I walk you through getting to the meat of what really matters in a soulmate and letting go of what's been keeping you apart. If you're ready to step into the love you deserve, the Soulmate Wishlist Blueprint can help you create the clarity and definition you need to call in your soulmate. Are you ready? The link's in the show notes. Download it for free now and begin the powerful shift that brings your soulmate into your life.